Hi, Deacon John Wilson here, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. So here we go with another one of these situations where I encourage you to look closely at the news at all sides, but in a quick way. I'm going to help you here today with this issue of the Department of Education. And in my last video focused on how could we, what would be like if we lost the Department of Education and the money went to the states. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to just show you what's happening in real time. And I'm going to show you with media sources that are more liberal. And you'll get a clear picture, I think, of what's going on. You're going to first see, and I'll react to an NBC video of what they say is happening. And I'm going to include the whole video below in a link, but I'll play enough of it about the Department of Education because they start talking about USAID and all that. I don't want to mix that into this discussion. That's not education related. Again, that's something for the other channel when I get that going. Right now, today, I want to talk about, can the president actually, on his own, eliminate the Department of Education? Because you're going to see a second video where that would confuse people. And that's the video you're going to be seeing on most news broadcasts, not the first video that reports the story. A lot of you in the evenings are listening, and that's when the opinion broadcasters are on MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, because I think Fox is not exactly saying it right either. And I'll talk about that at the end. Because remember, I'm concerned about the winsomeness that we don't have slants too far either way, and my parents are confused. And they almost confuse me. So I know that you're getting a take on it that maybe is not actually what's happening. Let's look at this video of how NBC News actually reported it. And I will actually do a reaction to it as well. I think that would be helpful. So here's that video of the news broadcast about the upcoming, what I say is a proposed Department of Education removal. I have more to say about that. It's hard to say what it is, but I'll try my best. Again, I'm trying to clarify what's happening. This is a good news broadcast. So take a look.
So, Gabe, good morning. What do we know about this executive mandate or order to eliminate the Department of Education?
Hi there, Jose. Good morning. Well, yes, two sources familiar with the process tell NBC News that, yes, as you said, the White House is preparing an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education. One source saying that that order could come as soon as this month. A separate source says the order will state that the White House will oversee the submission of proposed legislation to Congress to close the department. Of course, Congress would obviously need to weigh in on this before it would happen.
Okay, now let me get this straight right now. He said, obviously, it's not obvious from the news. The White House can say, or President Trump can say, we'll close the Department of Education, but it won't close because you'll immediately have lawsuits or Congress will take action. You'll have lawsuits saying it can't close. Congress has to rule on that. I mean, right now, true, the Republicans have the majority, but I can see a scenario where if it's not adequately explained in legislation, how the functions of the Department of Education will continue, but without the administrative function of a department. If they can show that, I think then they will have a chance of successfully winding down the Department of Education. But notice the reporter said it has to go to Congress. And the White House just is going to oversee the legislation, as the White House always does. They did it under Biden. They did it under Obama. They do it all the time. They propose legislation and they push it through. That's a part of our government, part of what can happen, but that's why you have checks and balances, okay? So I'm going to continue the video, and I'll turn it back just a little bit so you can hear what I just said, what I just told you about it's a proposal. He cannot, as a dictator, close it. We have a constitution and a government. Okay?
House will oversee the submission of proposed legislation to Congress
See?
to close the department. Of course, Congress would obviously need to weigh in on this before it would happen. Now, Jose, just this morning, White House officials were saying that this is something that President Trump promised during the campaign. So it should come as no surprise. But it's yet another measure that the president and his administration are taking in order to reshape a government. Now, as you said, Doge, along with Elon Musk, have been.
Okay, so the rest is about USAID. So you can see the video. I'll include it below. Let's go on to the next video, which I'll set it up for you before we get to it. It has actually occurred. Hold on here. It occurred this morning, at the Department of Education. A very large group of Democrat Congresspeople in the House came over, because that's the House that would initiate the legislation to close it. They wanted to come in and confront the acting Department of Education director, who's a young woman who's just holding it down until the president's pick is approved. And she chose not to want to meet with the group. They were kind of loud, and she didn't want to meet with them. So she sent someone out and said, "Oh, we won't do that. We'll do interviews appropriately." But they were there. They wanted to go inside the building and confront her. And she chose not to see them. But I want you to pay close to attention to what they're saying. In the light of the news broadcast you just heard, are they stating the truth about what President Trump can actually do? And I think that's what it is. He says these things, and everybody gets all upset and bent out of shape. And I'm going, why? He can't even do that. Or you need to understand he's a very transactional individual, and he tends to put the worst case out first. I think there is a way, and also philosophically, there is a way to take something away but keep its functions. I saw somewhere online people said he's going to stop the FAFSA. That's not anywhere in the plans. I follow the news really close, both sides, and that's not what's going on here. People say, oh, well, he's going to block access to college. There is no chance of that. The Department of Justice oversees Title IV and makes sure that students are treated fairly in admissions. And we've had some Supreme Court rulings that I've talked about on that. People are going way overboard, particularly some Democrats in Congress. I haven't heard people do it, though. They're going way overboard, and that's the news you're going to hear in your ear tonight and this weekend, that he's trying to take away something from your children. But I'm telling you, he can't, and that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is, listen closely to me, is cutting out the tremendous waste we have in having a Department of Education. Why don't we just send that money, I think you're going to hear, to the states, and let those decisions made by the states and the school districts and not by the federal government? That's the point. Why don't we need a bureaucracy to manage that? Okay? FAFSA is a good example. I mean, the government's been running the FAFSA, the new FAFSA, and it's a failed program. It's failed. The student loan system, they tried to propose all loans be forgiven, and that's not what's happening. Some people got forgiveness who had long-term loans, but hadn't made many payments. Doesn't matter what I thought. That's what they did last administration. But that kind of stuff is not a matter of the Department of Education. That was a presidential policy change. Again, you can keep the functions of Department of Education, but get the federal government out of the business. Because what has happened to student scores, test scores, since the department came in? I saw on the recent report card that 4th and 8th grade students are still significantly behind, particularly among Black and brown communities. So what have we really improved having a Department of Education? All right, let me show you this other video of the congresspeople down at the Department of Education this morning, I believe.
Coming in. Who are you?
You're not coming in.
Who are you?
Who under whose
Who are
orders?
you?
Who are you?
Who are
Who
you?
are you, sir?
Do you have business here?
I've sent the assistant secretary a letter alerting her that we would be here today, and we've asked her for a meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that that's been accepted, so until that's accepted.
Wait a minute.
Who are you? Who are you? And what do you do here?
What do you do here?
Security responsibility.
Get out of the way. We pay you. We pay for your job. We pay you.
We're members of
We
Congress.
pay you.
We are here
Nobody has accepted a meeting.
members of Congress.
You
Wait a
are.
minute. We haven't heard that from the secretary. We haven't heard that from her spokesman.
I'm
are
relaying
paid
that.
by.
You are not the spokesman for the department. You are a security guard.
Can you identify?
I already did.
We are members of Congress.
Where's your badge? Where's your badge?
You
Where's
don't
your
have any
ID?
identification.
Where's your ID? Where's your ID?
We are not.
That's not good enough.
We are not.
They want to close the Department of Education. They want to cut back on funding for low-income areas through Title I. They want to eliminate Head Start. They want to cut back on...
Everything he's listing right here has to go through Congress. Everything. Removing the Department of Education will not end those programs, and they can't just remove the Department of Education without politically addressing everything he's saying. This is the way our system works. But they're entitled to their view and their speech, which was appropriate. They did a speech in front of the department. I'm excited. That's our system in action. But you, as a consumer of news, have to ask yourself, is that really something that this is saying here? Or is that something that we're missing somehow? That we're missing what happened in the news broadcast? That these Congress people are doing this for you to get nervous and upset and fearful.
on school lunches, cut back on access to college, and we're going to make sure that they recognize that that has to go through Congress and through our committee. And if we can get 3 Republicans to join us on the committee, we can stop everything they want to do. And if it gets out of committee, we need 3 Republicans in the United States to join us to block what they want to do in abolishing the Department of Education.
He's exactly right. That's how the system works. I mean, it's going to be 5 votes they're going to need in about a month when some seats are filled. But also in the midterm elections, the Democrats could take control of the House and reverse it or cause it to be slowed down, whatever it is, because I don't think that really is what the president is saying. He wants major changes in the way policy is handled, probably.
President Donald Trump has promised to abolish the Department of Education, and he believes that he can do this through executive order. And we're here to...
No, that's not what the news broadcast said. It said he'd issue an order to back legislation to go to Congress to do it. Now, you could disagree with that, and you may actually disagree, but it's your Congress people you're going to work through, and it's going to be a legislative process, not a dictatorship, despite what people think. We do not have a dictatorship in the United States.
Remind them that he cannot. Trump and Musk have placed DOJ staffers in the building where they have access to the private data of millions of students and families. Already, they have placed dozens of employees who perform vital services on which our schools...
So that's where I disagree with Republicans a little bit. I do think it was excessive, the type of access that Musk's team has, but that's a separate issue from how to proceed politically. And they probably can get a judge to order them out of the building, but they probably reviewed the areas to cut costs already. Sure, I think that's overreach by the Republicans. Sure, I agree. I agree that went a little far there, and I'm not comfortable with private citizens having that kind of access. And I see that they are changing the way they're doing it on Monday and having the White House people involved and directing the executive branches of government and the departments to provide the information to them that's being requested. So I agree with that. Let me continue and let's finish up. It's getting kind of long.
Teachers and students depend on leave. So we're here today to follow up on a letter that 95 of my colleagues and I sent this week. We asked to meet with the acting secretary, and we have yet to receive a response.
Which is typical. I mean, there are loads of subpoenas, I think hundreds, that were ignored, that Republicans requested last Congress. So I say that every time nobody respects each other's subpoenas for information. It doesn't make it right. But the other thing is, this person is not, I think there were 6 in command of the organization. You remember it's post-election. So why should she be compelled to meet with them on these types of issues? Let's wait till the secretary gets in, and then they probably will have the meetings they want, or something of that nature.
We are here to ask her, will you comply with an illegal executive order to shut down the Department of Education? We will not cede the responsibility for our future generations to one man, his ideology, and his unelected lieutenants.